Hi everyone, we're gonna do another drive like an instructor video tonight. Now, a lot of people have commented in my other videos that I've uploaded about a night driving video. So honestly, there's nothing planned. I'm gonna absolutely wing it. So if I speak a load of rubbish as normal, I apologise. Let's go and have a little look. So, first things first, I hope you can see me okay. We've got minimal light, but to be honest, I've done my very best with the camera. If it's a little bit grainy, I apologise, but I'm not going to drive around with the interior lights on, to be honest. I hope that you can see us and hear us all okay. First thing I'd like to just quickly talk about are the correct use of lights. I'm not going to go on and bore you to death with it. Just make certain that you do have dipped headlights on whenever you've got any poor weather or any darkness. A lot of people nowadays have these cars, me included, with automatic lights, and honestly, the amount of times that people have them switched to zero and just drive off is untrue. So always check your dipped headlights are on, and don't forget those checks to make sure all your lights are working and operating properly is really important. The other thing that I'd always ensure that's going to happen on a night drive is same as the day really, but probably even more so important at night, is windscreen wash. So I need to make sure my windscreen is always going to be nice and clean. When you're driving at night, any dirt on the windscreen makes it streaky or whatever, can impair your view massively, and as you'll probably find out tonight, like I said, I've got no plan on what I'm going to talk about, but night driving is all about vision. So let's cut to it, let's get on with it. So first of all, make sure we're looking around everywhere. We're just leaving a car park. Emerging, honestly, it's the normal things. You can actually see where cars are, providing they do have lights on, quite early. However, the big thing about night driving is that although you can see things a little bit earlier sometimes, you cannot always judge speed and distance very well. Now, I wasn't sure whether I was going to get past the keep clear, but I think we've got enough room a little touch further up, so we're okay. Now, speed and distance, like I said, can be a little bit more awkward to judge, so that's one thing I'm sure we're going to be touching on tonight. But just as I'm sat here, there's other things at night that are a little bit more visible. Just for example, the traffic lights. I don't know whether you can make them out on the dash cam, but you can see the traffic lights, not the ones that I'm looking at, the red ones, but the ones at the side. And that's a clear indication of when our lights are probably going to change. So at the moment, the ones at the side are on green, so we can just sit and wait. I've taken the car out of gear, the handbrake's on, so I'm just chilling and I'm just watching around. I'm keeping really aware. Now they've changed at the side, so we're going to get prepared and we're going to do a left turn. So there's no worries about the signal being on at that point. It's giving everyone around plenty of chance to see what I'm doing. Okay, so there's nothing really different about doing a junction. At night there's no problems, same rules apply, but things can be a little bit more visible, like we've said about these lights a little bit further up. So that's the first thing that night driving for me includes a little bit more of. It's a little bit more ease of anticipation of maybe traffic lights that you're coming up to. So again, I'm brake neutral, and I'm just going to sit, I've said it before in a few of my videos, with my foot on the foot brake until people come up behind. The lights at the side have changed, so I'm getting it back into gear and I'm going to get ready. Okay, so there we go. So I'm going to do a right turn at the light. So making sure, again, I'm watching and putting my signal on and making sure that I've been seen. It may very well mean that you just leave your signals on for that little bit longer before you actually decide to do the manoeuvre. And now I'm cancelling and reapplying there. I'll talk about that in a minute once I'm through the junction, but we cannot see very well behind this car that's doing a U-turn in the central reservation, so I'm just making sure road's clear where I'm going. Now, it's really important to check your road is clear. Now look at those pedestrians on the right. They are so difficult to spot and pick up, and that's the main thing that's the difficulty when driving at night. It's not necessarily the cars. Most of the cars should be pretty visible, although you are always likely, as I said at the start, to have vehicles who maybe won't have lights on. So the cars are generally pretty easy, but it's the pedestrians. So as I was entering that road, I'd do this anyway if I was driving in the daytime, as we all should, but you should make sure that you're scanning both sides of your exit road to make sure that there's no pedestrians that are going to walk out. Make sure it is safe to do that crossing of the traffic. Just going back a couple of minutes, I don't know whether I've mentioned it on any of the other videos, but if you're ever doing lane changing and then a right turn, if you've got enough time, cancel the signal and then reapply so everyone around you knows exactly what you're doing. They think then, if you just leave your signal on, that maybe you've forgotten about the signal, so it just like rubber stamps that turn that we're doing. Okay, so there was a couple of little situations there as we were passing the hospital, but nothing too major, nothing that is really specifically involved in night driving. So if there's nothing, honestly, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to try and concentrate on night driving as much as I can. So there might be little cuts in this video as well. I'm not going to do it as one big long piece, because like I said, you'll be sat here not really listening to much or hearing much on certain occasions. As we come up to another junction, there's obviously more dangers where there are junctions, so we can see the lights in plenty of time. It's just a little junction here to the right that you're always wary of. Bus stops as well, people could be crossing the road at these central reserves, so we're always looking out for any potential danger. Like we said, pedestrians are really difficult to spot, road markings are really difficult to spot. So here, if I didn't know this, doing a right turn, you don't need to be looking at the floor to work out that there's two lanes. Just look at the width in between these two traffic lights, and it's the width there that's telling me there's two lanes. Now I've taken my signal off after I've found my way into this right slip road, just so people coming up don't think that I'm going to be going into the right side. Perfect. We've got an extra little thing. We've got an emergency service vehicle coming up behind. If it turns right, it's actually not. I can see by the signal it's going to go left, so I literally don't need to do a thing. So when there's an emergency service vehicle, try not to panic. Try and think of space and try and think on what you might have to do to help the ambulance in this case get through the junction. So try not to panic and just steer up onto a curb or steer away from it, because you'll hit someone else, maybe a cyclist coming through. Okay, so back to what I was saying again a little touch earlier about anticipation of traffic lights. It's pretty easy. There's gaps in the traffic from both sides, to be honest. Now I can see the filter traffic stopping over there, so we're going to be going within 2 or 3 seconds, I would have thought. There we go. So that's an easy part to actually driving at night. We get a little bit easier job. So do we need to signal to go around here? Not really. I think maybe in that scenario people would just be misled. Now bus stops, again, this shouldn't be a major problem. Don't forget, we can be hidden. This car coming out from the junction from the left could have been a little problem if it had dived out. Crossings, now it's really difficult to make out the crossing, so make sure you give yourself a little bit more space in between yourself and the vehicle in front, just so you get a longer time to actually assess these crossing areas. Use your brakes as a warning earlier and longer, over a longer time, because again, that speed and distance judgment is much more difficult in the dark. Okay. What about these parked cars to the left hand side as well? Now, there's a bigger danger to the left hand side generally than there is to the right hand side. And all I'm going to do, I'm just going to do a left turn at these lights. But you might very well, if you're passing parked cars, need to give them more space and more room, or pass at a slower speed. Remember, we should always be driving at a speed where we could stop if anything happened. And the key is, at night, just as it is in the day, but probably even more so, is what we can't see that's the key. I had a good check in my left door mirror there before doing the left turn. Cyclists aren't always going to be using the correct lights. Sometimes the batteries go on the lights. Alright, as a cyclist you should be well prepared, but keep an eye out for other people. Like I've said many times before, we're driving the metal box, we're generally a little bit safer. Now I'm choosing to take a position up into lane 2 on this dual carriageway. And just a little word on that as well, it's to minimise risk away from these vehicles on the left hand side. Again, I'm safer out here. I'm not impeding anyone, no one wants to get past me, although the dual carriageway is just about wide enough to make 3 lanes out of 2, so the straddle or half and half position honestly would be good if someone wanted to get past. But honestly, the car behind, it's not pushing, it's no issue. And after the parked ones, I'm going to check and move back in. I'm just making certain that I'm watching absolutely everything. Now, there's a fair bit further up, I'm not sure whether the dash cam can pick up on it very well, but there's a cyclist. He's got a flashing light on the back of his cycle. He's up near the 2 roundabouts a little bit further up. Just going to take care that no one's going to be an issue at any of the junctions. The crossing as well, again, it's all fine. I'm going ahead at the first roundabout and left at the second. It's towards the other road across the other side, so I'm still probably going to have to deal with that cyclist a little touch further up. It looks as though, well, there wasn't an obvious gap. Potentially there was, but even more so in the night, I would be mindful that judgment of speed and distance is a little bit more difficult, so I'd always be a little more cautious in the night time, just in case, like I said, I've misjudged anything. And again, cyclist is there, so I've taken up my early position, given loads of room as I'm checking through the junction. This dual carriageway, the car's a little closer behind, so I'm still going to keep a good distance away from the vehicles to the left, just in case again someone just comes out. But this time, because the car's quite close, I've changed what I was doing to suit the scenario. I'll take that position back up in the left again. So there's no sort of like hard and fast rules about everything. You've got to look at the scenarios that you're faced with and adapt and change. There's too many people who can only do one thing. So little check as we come through the junction, make sure I've all been seen and there's no issues. And again, there's more parked cars, no one behind this time, so I'm just going to position out into lane 2. Brake lights going on, even though they're pretty visible in the daytime, they're even more visible at night. So again, plenty of time, backing off in loads of time, and that also enables people to, I'm just going to pop it back into the left just because there's a car that's coming up behind. So yeah, backing off the gas early allows me to have a gentler, smoother slow down, and people don't actually realise that it allows you to keep the car moving a little bit higher speed when it's time to go. People don't get that. They seem to have the mindset of zooming into things, and that's the thing that's going to get them there quickly, which is absolutely not the case. It's exactly the same if we have any ice or snow later on in this year. If you can back off early and keep things moving, honestly, there's less chance of wheel spin or skid or problems. So you've got to go a little bit slower, but try and keep things moving if at all possible. Notice the extra space that I'm giving all of the cars as well. Yeah, I'm way more than 2 seconds, but honestly, a lot of the time it's irrelevant. The traffic light's a bit further on, I'm more than likely you're just going to be catching people, so just give yourself more time and more space, because things are obviously a bit more difficult to see. I touched on it before, but road markings are a little bit more difficult to see, and they obviously are, but so are signs, so you've got to keep your eyes a little bit more lively, I probably would say. You should be glancing around and not fixating on any one thing for any length of time, but in the dark, you should be popping those eyes around quite quickly. So from behind to ahead, both sides of the crossing, far up, we've got a parked car. So obviously someone could be in it because it's got some lights on. So again, I've just backed off early. It was a 20 limit. I've given this car plenty of room and I'll clear safely. There could be areas of danger and obvious areas of danger at certain places. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to a little bit further up, I'm going to hook a right and we're going to head past the football ground. Now the Reds aren't playing. Tonight. Perfect. And hopefully you've been able to see that on camera as well. So we've been quite lucky, we've been blessed with 2 emergency vehicles that we've had to deal with tonight. But hopefully you could see that on camera, that you could actually see the flashing blues probably a little bit before you could hear the sirens. That's not always going to be the case, but if there's anything that you can add to your driving visually, that's going to be an added bonus, to be honest. So even that situation, it was a little bit more visible. You could see the blues off reflection on certain things, and hopefully I can show you with the dash cam of what I was talking about there as well. So going back to what I was saying, we're going to hook a right here and we're going to head up by the football ground. The football ground is not going to be busy tonight because the Reds played last night. However, we're always thinking of areas that people could be and congregate. We've got a pub here in front of us. What's the time? It's 7:30 on a Friday evening. I need to get a life doing a video at 9:30 or 7:30 on a Friday evening. But anyway, there could be areas, intelligent prediction. Think on where people could congregate, and then you may very well have to adapt your driving to suit. So we are going to be heading up near the football ground. Could there be people about? Yes, there could be. There's generally people around the football ground most times of the day. Here, yeah, I cannot see very much. I'm obviously getting out of a car. I don't know whether he looked a little bit worse for wear. So you're always able to be mindful of that. Chip shops as well. People are getting the tea, so adapting your speed to suit. Judgment in meeting situations like we've got here in front of us is also a little more difficult because that space is more difficult to judge. It's not as obvious in the dark as it would be in the daytime. So again, take a few steps back, go that little bit slower, always be prepared and ready to stop, and honestly you shouldn't ever have any issues. Okay, but driving at night though, from what we've seen up to now, it's not really a big deal. People shouldn't be wary of it, if I was honest. If you drive too fast for any conditions, you're going to get yourself into bother, but the dark isn't any different than the rain. If the rain's causing you problems, you drive accordingly. If the dark's causing you problems, you drive accordingly. It's all about seeing and being seen. So I'm going to hook a left. I've got a stop junction. It's nice to have illuminated signs as well, and sometimes that makes it a little touch more obvious to spot certain things. So again, that can be a help, not a hindrance. So there is a little bit of activity this side of the ground, only a taxi, but the rest of it, it's not an issue. It doesn't look as though there's much down this end, so what we will do is head all the way down. Now, pedestrian there. I had a video the other week about a dog on a lead, so there's no one around me, so all I'm going to do, I'm just going to take again a safer option. I think the dog is on a lead, but it's on one of those retractable ones again. Oh no, it's not, it's just well behaved. But that's the issue, you cannot see very well, if I was honest. So if there's anything that you can do to lower risk, do it. It might very well be the case with these parked cars that I'm more over on the opposite side of the road. As long as I could still safely get back to the correct position to the left a little bit more, that's not an issue. But make sure you're aware of entrances the other way. That would be a classic area for people of coming out of these driveways and houses and hotels and bits and bobs that there are around there. Car coming. You can see the car coming there again before you could, well, you could see the lights coming before you could actually see the car coming. So again, you get preempted. I've said that quite a lot already, and you can. But yeah, going past any entrances if you're quite wide. Just be careful, because that's the absolute classic for people coming out without lights on. Pub looks a little bit desolate, so that shouldn't be an issue. Again, there's a little bit more space, so I'm going to use it, but I'm not going to go too wide because we've got the four-wheel drive vehicle on the left-hand side. I'm going to hook a left, showing people as early as I can, checking for cyclists coming down the hill, and again reassessing the road. We've again got areas where people could be coming out from in between parked cars, so I'm going to drive accordingly. Again, there's no reason to rush it because we've got the lights up ahead on red. So yeah, night driving shouldn't be any major bugbear to people. Some people actually prefer driving at night. Please let us know in the comments what you think. Okay, a couple of people crossing the road, and as it always is, people wearing dark clothing. I'm just seeing a girl walk across the road. She had a little bit of a reflective pattern on her pants, but you've got a couple of people. A guy to the left had a nice grey top on, but these two looks as though the nurse's dark blue tunics on. Lights are changed at the side, so we're not going to be long. And again, cyclists, difficult to see, so watch out for people. The bus is an absolute people magnet, so again, is there anyone that's going to walk out that I might have to stop for? I know who's around. I've managed my space as best I can. I've increased my gap in between us and the bus in front, so therefore I've lowered that risk, and that's all you need to do. The bus may very well obscure my view of the crossing up ahead as well, so again, being this far back shouldn't be an issue. To anticipate whether the bus is going to park is also an easier job. For certain aspects of it, at the night you might be able to see inside the bus to see whether the stopping light has been activated by one of the people on the bus. But people at bus stops may very well be a little bit harder to spot. So people crossing the road again in all black, reflective trainers, they were pretty good, mate. So pick up on anything that's reflective. And again, just be ready in certain areas. Petrol stations, motorcyclists, motorcycles, you don't have much lighting on the side of them, to be honest, so that was pretty difficult to spot. And notice what I'm doing with my speed here, because again, it's tight, it's narrow. I'm just giving the vehicles around as much space as I can. People again all wearing black, all wearing dark clothing, more difficult to spot, so you're always aware. And I never stop moving my observations from mirrors to close, middle and far distances, and I scan like a radar from side to side, close, out and back and side to side, and mirrors, and not just looking in your mirrors at the nearest thing as well. Make sure you're looking far back in your mirrors as well, because things can come and surprise you from a big distance away. Now, what position do you think they're all taking up? Not brilliantly positioned. There's some of those going to be turning right. There's some then just following that vehicle that's in front of them. This taxi, for example, not sure, he's turning right. Okay, must have heard me talking about him. So notice again, I gave myself plenty of space. This can be a little awkward because of the gap, so I'm again just going to drive at speed. I'm just going to stop a second because he's swinging out. Yeah. Check around. Cyclist nicely illuminated to the left. So notice when the space was small, risk was getting higher. Taxi driver, not very well positioned, little thought about other people around, and that's pretty obvious because if he knew I was there and thought about the gap that was potentially there big enough for people to take, you shouldn't be swinging out. So you've got to unfortunately think of other people who are less capable and less able on the road. That's what we're always trying to do. Now there's some movement down near the lights, you can see people crossing. Again, you've got another pub on the right hand side, but there's no major issue. I'm going to turn left at these lights as well. I'm just going to try and find a few more things that we can look for. Crossing, there's someone there. So you see me? Yes. So you can even see eye contact in the dark if you're aware of it. If you're not going in too fast to things, it's going to cause you a big problem. Shops, flashing lights, they're obviously open. They're always aware of, like I said before, people who could be crossing. There's a little scooter there outside the front, so it could be delivery drivers and riders. Okay. People getting out of cars, they're going to walk around the other side. How difficult it is to judge how quickly people are moving towards you when you've got just those lights in your face as well. Again, I'm keeping my foot on a foot brake until people have got up behind. When they have got up behind, I'm going to let go of my foot brake so I don't dazzle people. Can't see it on dash cam, but what I'm actually watching here, I'm watching the pedestrian crossing areas either side of me at these lights. The green men on the cowls change, so I had an idea of when we were going to change and we were going to go ourselves. Roadworks, I don't want to be positioned next to people, so I'm just going to go ahead of this one, settle my speed a little bit because the speed camera, and now I'm nicely positioned in front if I have to move out. But I'm looking for any movement of this van on the left could be my trigger to have to do something different. Movement is a lot more difficult to spot at night with the person on the left. Yeah, it's difficult to spot. The dash cam probably is going to give a little bit better view than natural eyesight, to be honest, because of the apertures in the dash cam. So the things that I'm talking about are probably going to be a little bit more difficult to see in real life. Again, bus, people magnet, so just being careful. I'm backing off. I'm going to hold back and just let the bus slowly out. I don't have to slow too much. Make it obvious for the bus driver. There you go, it's my pleasure, buddy. It's not a problem. He's trying to get across, so I'm not going to make the situation worse and overtake him. I'm going to take the second left at the roundabout. I'll talk about the bus in a second. I just cannot see, so again, I'm just holding back. Rather be behind him so we can see the Mercedes coming round rather than next to him and just gambling, so not a problem. So how did I let the bus out there? Well, it was quite difficult, to be honest, without flashing, but flashing, just a second, I'm just going to again position out in lane 2, just so we've got a little bit more room with these vehicles out in front, especially because this guy is following quite close behind. So again, if I've got to react, I need more time to do it. So again, I'm just altering what I do dependent on the scenario and the situation. So yeah, what did I do to let the bus out? It was quite a difficult one. I can't flash because then the person who's maybe got off the bus thinks I'm speaking to them. Then the bus and the people start to use the same space, and then someone gets run over. So there's no one in the world I would want to be a part of that. I'm going to try and demonstrate this, if it's possible, with this white one to our left. I'm just going to be submissive. I'm just going to hold back and see whether she is quick enough to take the space. Come on. There we go. So you don't have to flash people. Is she going to turn right from there? It's a dangerous one if she is. No. Not sure. Anyway. So it's effectively our speed and slowing early which can give people a good indication of maybe letting them go. Would I let people go unnecessarily? No, I wouldn't. And I just gave the example of the white car there literally because we had it in front of us. I usually say if you've got priority, keep moving, because they can always wait and go in behind. But buses are a little touch different, although you don't have to give way to the bus. In my opinion, you should do. We should all be trying to do our bit for sort of like public transport, to make public transport more accessible and easier to use and a more attractive option. I know that could be doing my business out of business, however, it's irrelevant. There's always going to be people who are going to be learning to drive over the next 10 years at least, so it's irrelevant. Try and let the buses out, try and be helpful. I've gone on about being or not being selfish recently in recent videos, and it's one thing that I detest about people in general, not just on the road. People nowadays are getting more and more selfish. It's nice to be nice, remember, so do what we can to help. So this is all stuff that we've covered before. Lights at the side, I'm watching the green men just go off, so the white ones at the side should change, which they do. Getting the car prepared and ready, off we go on green. Now again, watching in your mirrors and seeing how quickly people are catching you is also more difficult at night. So again, having and more time to do it is really, really important. What I did there as I moved off, I didn't go through obviously on any colour but green, but I was quite brisk moving off while the car was a distance away. I didn't want it to catch me up, not to the fact that I didn't want it to get past me, that's utterly irrelevant, but just so I've got a space big enough to actually move in. So be thinking of that, adjust your speed more. Learners honestly are terrible at it. Forever going on to all my learners, use your pedals more, use your gas more, use your brake more, change your speed more. People all just want to drive at the same speed and just steer, and that's not going to be good enough. So I'm going to do a left turn at the roundabout. Again, the position that I took all the way down this road, lane 2, there's no one near us, wasn't an issue. I'm just going to put a left signal on just to warn this vehicle to the left I'm coming back in. Should be parked on the bus stop area. Nice and clear, nice and early. Nothing that I've missed. It was quite positive, but again, just checking and just taking up my position according. So has there been anything that you think should be included in this nighttime driving? Have I missed anything out? I haven't gone on about lights, if I was honest, because we have been driving in built up areas, so there's always been street lamps, so there's no reason for us to use full beams. I'm just going to have a quick go at crossing traffic just to see whether I can pick up on whether it's difficult or not, and I'm just going to hold back, let this guy finish. Have a little look. I know there's no vehicles coming, but I've made sure my road's nice and clear, so I wasn't a brilliant example, so I apologise about that. But I'll try and get a couple more crossing traffic situations in before we finish. So just have a look at this situation in front. I said before that meeting scenarios are a little bit more difficult. I know that car's just turned off and ruined my speech there, but the meeting situations are loads more difficult. Is that car going to come wide? Again, checking, ready to stop, not a problem. Yeah, meeting situations are a little bit more difficult because the judgment, you can't really see how wide vehicles are. I've had scenarios before with farm vehicles that have had lights missing on the plough that they were towing. The plough was stuck probably about 18 inches outside the width of the tractor. So that was a lethal scenario. So again, these scenarios, these situations where you could be closer towards people, just go slower. Here, the gap's small, so I'm doing what? Probably about 12 miles an hour and slowing down with it as well. Remember, that thought of rushing to get somewhere isn't going to get you there any quicker. Planning and anticipation will get you there quicker. I'm just seeing the guy across the road, just been either the off licence or the chippy, probably both. Not a problem with that, it is a Friday, we're allowed to enjoy ourselves, but like you said before, intelligent prediction, what could go on here? Again, pizza land, bargain booze, could be people coming out. Okay, haven't used full beam lights, what I'm going to do, I'm going to cross traffic again to see whether we can show you the difficulties of crossing traffic, and then I'm just going to take you on a road where there may not be people, but there's still going to be street lamps. So I'm going to show you just how useful or how unuseful full beam headlights are when you've got street lamps. So we'll have a little look at this in a second. Again, watching around the junction, not much moving, no lights side to side. We're on green, so it could very well be that we're going shortly. It's only that far road that I'm actually turning into that could have traffic coming this way, but there's a big gap, so I wouldn't be surprised if we're shortly. Just watching round, looking in the mirrors, making sure we're not being caught up by anyone. So you look at how difficult, or more difficult, the judgment is of crossing traffic. Speed and distance, much more difficult to judge because you just see lights coming towards you rather than the actual movement of your vehicle. The exit road's clear, no one overtaking me. Bob at Tom's, I'm just putting the left signal on. So this is a road where we have street lights, and we've got quite a nice clear road. So I'm just going to get a little bit around the corner. I don't know whether I've just spied someone coming the other way. There is, so I'm not going to use them full beams just yet, but I'm going to show you hopefully a little bit further up just how useless full beams are when you've got street lamps, so there's no real reason to use them. There's a park here to the left, well a bit more than a park to be honest. There's a little stream and a little walkway. Let's have a little look at these lights. So this is our normal view, now the full beams, so it actually doesn't help much, does it? On, off. So it doesn't actually help loads and loads when you've got street lamps. So the only type of roads that you need them on are the unlit ones. And remember, don't use them when you've got vehicles in front of you, whether it's coming towards or you following. There are new technologies in the cars that are actually able to do adaptive full beam headlights. They are actually installed on my Mrs.'s M3, so that could be another video where I actually demonstrate how they work, and they are pretty good things. What they actually do is they spread the light around the actual car that's in front of you, so you can have your full beams one side to the right, full beam to the left, but it doesn't actually dazzle, it cuts out the middle bit. They're very, very clever things, and cars are getting cleverer. Now, are there any lights shining or protruding from the road to the right? No, doesn't mean there's no one coming, so again, because it's a sharp corner, slowing it down all the way into first. Other things that are a lot more difficult to spot, potholes can be a lot more difficult to spot. The size of speed bumps can be a lot more difficult to spot. Which way the road goes can be a lot more difficult to spot. But there you go, big pothole as we just found out. So again, just remember the whole sort of like topic of this night driving has been just take it down a level or two, and that gives you a little bit more time. You don't want to wreck your car. Cars are expensive things to buy and maintain, so you want to save them a little bit of car sympathy. So I think what we'll do to finish, we'll have a little nip up onto the motorway. We'll see whether there's anything there on the motorway that we can have a little talk about. As you can see, there's not loads of difference honestly with driving in the daytime. There's a few things that are a little more difficult. We've said about the pedestrians, maybe unlit cyclists or other road users, but the other things are pretty obvious to be honest. So shouldn't be anything to be worried about. If you are fearful of night driving, it's probably just a little bit of observational work. Why not go out and go and get some training? Why not go and seek advice from a professional instructor if you're worried about certain things? Signs are quite reflective as well. I don't know whether most people should know that, but I don't know whether everyone would. When you've got lights on, they seem to light up a little bit better, so that's all good. We're going to follow for the M57. So after these lights I'm going to take the slip road to the left. Still not going to signal. It could be a situation, I've seen it with people before, where they've missed a slip road and then they take these roads on the left they shouldn't do. So people aren't expecting it, however I've seen it happen. Green man on the cowl's just gone off, so it's going to be someone different. He should be shortly. We'll look around. Bob and Tom's, boys on bikes, twits on motorcycles, no one about. Still plenty of time for people to see and work off my signals. Now, had a few of the reflective studs on the road there. I don't know whether the dash cam is going to be able to pick up on them, but there's something that you need to be sort of like aware of at night. It can help you read the road. It's a little bit damp, so I'm not going to go mad round this corner, even though this car behind's a little close. All I'm going to do when the road splits, if he really wants to go bombing on, let him go. I'm just going to tuck it into the left. I am doing a left turn at the roundabout a little touch further up anyway, so plenty of space. So try and have a little look at the reflective studs. Here on the left there was just one red one, another red one, don't know whether you can see it on dash cam, denotes the left edge of the carriageway. Amber are the ones in between the right lane and the central reservation. We've got white ones in between the lanes, so across the middle if there was any. And we've got green ones to show where the slip roads on and off are. So keep an eye out for them, it can help you read the road. I just kept behind that Ford there just so I could have a little bit better view. Pick it up even through the trees if I can. That's a little bit better with the reflective studs. There we go. Quite a nice example. Trying to pick up on the flow of traffic on the motorway. No one's around. I'm going to signal. It's just the car that's slightly catching behind. I'm literally going to come onto the motorway and then dive off at the next junction. So again, just reassessing things around. Again, speed, distance, that's what I said right at the start, is the most difficult thing to judge at night. So if you're ever in doubt, just back off. Don't want to be catching anyone whenever risk is increasing. Just have a little lean forward in my mirror, just make sure there's no one there. And heading off the motorway. Keeping my speed up, not slowing down until I'm in the slip road, unless there was a problem in the slip road. And cancel the signal. Again, reading signs, personally I think they're a little bit easier to notice at night. So that's us coming to the end. Now, I don't think that there was loads of complicated things with that, if I was honest, but that's just my frame of mind. I know I'm supposedly the professional and I'm thinking of all these things all the time. Was there any bits there that you thought were new to you? Hopefully not, but as people said, I'm quite idealistic when it comes to the roads. I know there's going to be certain aspects of that people will have picked up on. If there is, try and implement them into your driving, try and make these roads a better place. But thank you so much for all your support as always, and I'll see you all soon.